And there you all are. Hello, hello, hello. Fantastic. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Yes? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, very good. Sounds like I'm getting through. That's fantastic. Wow. Well, another amazing time. The times are just so incredible. They are exciting. They are challenging. For some, they are depressing. There's everything going on. We have some good news. I want to report the good news before I report anything else here. Good news is that I just heard from Kachina, and she's doing much, much better. And her son is with her, and she's really enjoying having him with her. So that's really good news because we were quite worried the last time I spoke with you about our dear Kachina, one of the original Tara dancers, who has helped me in many different ways in the relationship with the dances of universal peace. So the other good news is blue skies in a lot of the West Coast, or at least in California. We can be happy about that. I know that the fires are still raging, and there have been some terrible circumstances of people being trapped, people dying. And of course, the smoke has been really quite difficult for people to deal with. But at least today, in good much of California where our friends are hanging out, the news has been things, there's a blue sky outside. So we can be grateful for that. Here on Maui, it's been pretty dry, so we prayed for rain, and we got rain. So that was very good. Just got a message from Phyllis, who is in Oregon and Washington, near the Washington border, and apparently it's still pretty bad there. So we'll keep that in our prayers. We'll keep those that are threatened by the fire in our prayers because this is a big challenge. So I got one question, just one question, but that's okay because it just turns out that the question that I got and the material that I have been preparing for this particular talk, of course, I didn't know that's what I was doing when I started it, but then I realized, oh yeah, here, this is what we want to talk about. Because the question, of course, is always, what are we doing? What are we doing with this precious human life? What are we doing with our precious human life? Many of us in this circle of Tara feel tremendously blessed, especially those of us here on Maui where we have almost no witness of the virus. There's no fires burning. So our, our preoccupations are not in these cataclysmic events at the moment. And yet still, what do we do with this precious time that we have? What do we do with this precious opportunity? This was Priya's question. And so I'm going to read her question and then I'm going to comment on it. And then I'm going to go to the main part of the teaching, which addresses this as well. She says to me, listening to the news, of course, that's always the challenge right there, listening to the news and reading a New York Times article about the US Attorney General, William Barr. I'm dismayed and concerned about our elections here in the US, only 47 days away. Well, I wasn't able to open the article she was talking about, but I know something about the situation. The United States has many sort of protections to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is what the founders were dedicated in providing for all of the people in the country. And we have watched this over the course of some time now, these past 3.5 years. We've watched these liberties be challenged by the fail-safes that were put in place in order to protect us. And she's addressing one of these. The Attorney General for the United States should be elected by, it should be ratified by Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, I think specifically the Senate. But at any rate, it wasn't. the man who was selected, and he has shown to be prejudiced in many ways that are uncomfortable for many people in the country. And so Barbara's question is, there's a part of me that's so outraged, I feel I need to speak out about the abuse of power. I want to call my senators and demand that William Barr resign immediately and be replaced by someone that both the Democrats and the Republicans approve of, etc. I feel I want to spread the word by posting this on my Facebook and social media. Well, as those of us who have mentioned our feelings about these situations, there could be some pushback, but I'll talk about that also when I finish this letter she wrote to me. There's another part of me that says, just focus on something else. Stay in your joy and bliss. Don't get sucked into the fear, doubt, and worry. But I feel that is like sticking my head in the sand. Is this all just an illusion? How did I create this mess? It is hard for me to completely understand how people can live in such different realities. I believe I should only act from a place of love and caring and not out of fear and worry. And I feel I'm trying to do that, but it's so confusing with what is going on these days. I don't want to regret that I didn't speak up or do nothing or do something like because it was too political. What do I do? Well, actually, she asks a lot of different questions in here, so I will try to address them all. But basically, in making a decision about anything, we need to consult with our wisdom guide. That's what rests within us in our heart. According to these teachings, it is it's in our DNA. This is our capacity. This is what we have. We are at nature radiant light beings. We are in essence loving and compassionate. But there are other things going on. That's like describing the sky as being blue. The sky indeed is blue, but it also has clouds that rise up in it. And although they do not define the nature of space, they are in it, they are part of it. And so this entire display of what I call gravity and density, this display of our dualistic nature must be dealt with in a way that keeps us stable, keeps us clear, and allows us to reference our inner guide, our inner guidance, our inner wisdom that is inherent in us. This is what we have. So that's where we want to go, no matter what the question is. Now, one of the statements that you bring up here, Priya, is the situation of what if I do nothing? That's like sticking my head in the sand. And of course, one of the very famous quotes, I can't remember the details. I'm sure that you could all tell me what it is. One of you can write it in the chat. But, you know, the greatest problem is when good people do nothing. So it is necessary, if we reflect in our heart that we have something to offer, that we have something to do, then yes, we have to do it. If we don't, we will regret it. That's absolutely correct, because the wisdom mind is prompting us to take a step into the future, into what we feel is necessary for us to feel confident. Now, the issue, you raise a couple of things here. Should I stay in my bliss and joy? Yes, of course you should stay in your bliss and joy. This does not mean that you don't take a step forward. In fact, the other one, should I only act from a place of love and caring? Absolutely. We should not act from a place of fear and worry. This is a distortion of the experience. We need to act from a place of love. But as I often remind my friends, my students, those of you who are willing to listen to me, that being ferocious, making a statement, stepping forward, has to be based in love. So if you feel, now you have a child, so for you, the future of the country and the world comes home very, very strongly. Some of us, okay, we're in our age time, our time of being older, and we've lived a tremendous amount of our life. And so we can say, well, whatever's going to happen, happens. But, you know, when you have a child, you're really thinking 7 generations ahead, right? As the American Indians insisted on their decisions to be based on looking 7 generations ahead. And so looking at that, you want to ensure that these precious liberties and these precious declarations of our founding fathers, the founding fathers of our country, that it is our responsibility to uphold them and to do what we can. Now, as a citizen, you have some power. First of all, you have the power to vote, and then you have the power to discuss what that means with people, why it's important. You have the power to point out when something is wrong. You're talking about contacting your senator. Absolutely. This is, I often send off messages to the senators and representatives when I feel that something really needs to be addressed. Now, you know, some people will say, well, does it have any effect? Yeah, the effect, first of all, is on my own mind. I know that I felt compelled to do something and I did it. And so this is important. This is a necessary part of our mental health, is to listen to our guidance and then to act on it. Not worrying about, okay, yeah, something might happen, it's true. One of the biggest lessons I ever received from my one of my guides, Satya Sai Baba, was to not be afraid to follow my face. I was not doing what my inner guidance told me to do because I was afraid of losing something. In other words, I was making it all about me. Now, this is something that we're going to address in the next, if I ever get around to the other teachings, but when we are self-obsessed, when we're only thinking about how things affect us, this is probably the greatest mind pollution that we've got going. We constantly have to think, what is the bigger picture here? What is the bigger picture? So are you afraid if you say what you feel that you're going to get some kind of negative response? Well, definitely if you move into the realm of politics, you can be sure that somebody is going to hit back, because it's true. Many people have different ways of looking at things, thinking about things. You have to really leave a lot of space for other communications and be realistic about it as well. See where is your voice going to have the most effect? Where are you going to be able to succeed in making a picture clear that to your inner heart is clear? Now, it's very possible that whatever you feel you need to do, whatever you feel compelled to do, is going to appear to you to have been a mistake. Like I said, my fear was always falling on my face, or I was always afraid of being shown to not know what I was talking about, or to make bad decisions, or whatever the judgment was. It was a fear. But once I took that away and went ahead with what I felt my inner guidance was asking me to do, then even the mistakes were highly educational. I learned tremendous amounts by doing what I thought was right and getting the feedback from the universe. So you cannot be afraid of that feedback. Be open to it, listen to it. Keep the main thing that we have to do is to be as in touch with the wisdom mind as we possibly can be. That we have to discover, what is it? What is creating those clouds in our blue sky? What is doing it? And once we know what's doing it, what strategy are we going to develop in order to deal with it? This is what you personally, what each one of us personally need to look at, to not be afraid of of what the feedback from the universe is going to be if we feel committed to a thing. But don't let this destroy your bliss and joy. The other piece of this, and this has to do with another book that I was studying, but because the first article was so complicated, I thought, okay, I'll never get around to this. But it was by Zozo Kensei, and he was telling us the 4 things if you want to call yourself a Buddhist. Well, I don't call myself a Buddhist, but I really appreciate what the Buddhists have to say. And the first one, absolute first one, is to understand the nature of impermanence. Now, very often, you have heard me talk about the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. And the second thought that turns the mind is death and impermanence. This is so essential to understand for the nature of our personal comfort and happiness. If we do not understand this, we are continually going to be assaulted by life, because nothing ever turns out exactly the way we think it should, because our think it should is all based on the past and not on the present. So we need to really examine this aspect of nature of mind very carefully, and to continue to explore it, to look deeper into it, to cultivate meditations around it. This is why in the protocol of the student teacher program, I have us concentrate on these for a significant period of time. It's not something we just read about and go, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's something that we have to know in our bones. Because, oh, Miri's asking for me to slow down. I'm talking too fast. The Portuguese girls, they are trying to translate what I'm saying. Not to mention Margarida is translating what I'm saying with her hands for the deaf community. And I think we also have Valentina, yes, for the Spanish community. Sorry, I just get so excited about all of this because I hear Barbara's heart talking to me when she says, I'm confused. What do I do? I feel that's not an easy, casual thing she's saying. She's saying something from the heart. And I know that it's something that is arising in many, many of my friends and students. What do I do? How do I deal with these crises? How do I deal with this political situation? I mean, we have all of these fantastic challenges. My astrologer friend, Christina Rika Devi, who is very famous for her work with Vedic astrology, was telling me, these are the planets are lined up for chaos right now. And wow, yeah, they sure, we can definitely agree with that. The planets are lined up for chaos. However, our life is chaos, moment by moment. It doesn't matter how settled or comfortable we think we are. We're not. We're not. And every day it proves to us, because one day we'll have a fabulous day, everything is wonderful. And then the next day, what's up? What? I didn't change. What changed? Everything changed. Everything changed. According to Buddhism, according to Shakyamuni Buddha, 360 times a second, everything is changing. Now, if we in any way grasp onto permanence for anything, especially our own identity, we are bound to suffer, because it's going to be pulled out of our hands the next nanosecond. So, and if something appears to be consistent, that is because there are all the causes and conditions that are allowing it to sustain some degree of consistency. But those are all changing. And so it doesn't matter when, definitely you can be sure that no matter what is happening, it's going to change. It's going to become something different. So, but how do we prepare for this? This is the issue that we need to face, is how do we prepare for this? We need to become as clear and as stable as possible. Because, well, the image, the image of clarity and stability is if we are looking into a glass of water that has some mud in it. Now, if you shake it up, you can't see anything. There's no clarity. But if you set it aside, the mud will settle to the bottom and you see the clear water. So the mind, it's an excellent metaphor for the mind. If it's constantly being agitated, then it will not be able to see clearly. So let's get into our stability mode, okay? We get into our stability mode, first of all, by looking at what is the most powerful thing that I can accomplish? What is the most precious thing that I can accomplish with this precious human opportunity? What can I do? What can I do? And according to these teachings, we start right from the beginning by saying to contact the inner wisdom, to radiate loving compassion, to be skillful and powerful so that whoever and whatever we encounter, we may bless the situation and we may empower that being to manifest the fullness of their human potential. We start there by affirming that's what's going on. So no matter what you see on the television, no matter what you read in the news, no matter what your children bring home, or your husband, or your friends, or your family, or your community, doesn't matter what it is, it all must reflect off of that. And then with the recognition that this entire display, including my human body, everything is changing very rapidly. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. And we cannot, because the picture is so big, rather than just looking at our piece of the puzzle, look at the big picture and see how everything is changing in the big picture as well. And all of these various conflicts and wars and fires and all of these different circumstances are the result of past action that is coming to fruition. Yes, were we a part of that? Absolutely, because we were a part of the infinite past that exists. So wherever or however consciousness was born in the conditions that prepared for this moment, that's what happened. So now what are we going to do about that? First of all, feeling guilty is ridiculous, useless. It happened. All right, it happened. So then how are we going to resolve this? Now I'm talking about the 4 powers in Vajrasattva that we were watching the little bit of video from the Munlam in Brazil several years ago. The 4 powers that we have are to understand when we are making a mistake, invoke our sources of refuge, and renew our commitment to manifest the fullness of our human potential, to engage in activities that are going to increase our vitality, our energy. We can call it our merit. And any activity that is going to increase our sense of being interconnected and engaging in the positive activities that are going to bring blessing to that interconnection. And then finally, to resolve to not go down the path that is causing us confusion and causing us to be unstable. So we need to continually affirm these things. We need to continually affirm our commitment to our highest self, our commitment to our highest being, our commitment to our wisdom mind, that we are going to reference it constantly and consistently. So now the teaching that has everything to do with that, these papers that I have prepared from an article in The Lion's Roar. It's a Buddhist publication, and it's a talk that Prema gave, and the title of the talk is How We Get Hooked and How We Get Unhooked. So, in other words, the hook has to do, in this particular case, with what is obscuring our ability to be present constantly in wisdom mind. What is holding us back? Now, if you examine your day-to-day experience, which is what you are invited to do, you discover where that hook is. Now, the Tibetan word is shenpa, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use that as little as possible. The only problem with using the word hook is that there are positive hooks. One of the positive hooks is with your teachers, with your sources of refuge. Tara is often depicted holding a hook. It looks like an ankura, which is how they hook the elephants, how they get the attention of an elephant, because the mind is seen to be as frustratingly slow and ponderous in its movement as an elephant. And when a divine being hooks you, it means that you've got a direct connection. And so whatever occurs, your mind is going to turn in that direction. But we're not talking about that kind of hook. We're talking about the kind of hook that, I'm going to read some of this, that triggers our habitual tendency to close down. The moment of tightening. So this means any moment that we feel any sense of frustration at all, we tighten up against it rather than approaching it with openness, spaciousness, and creativity. Because the nature of our mind is spaciousness. It is also loving kindness. It is also creative. This is our inner potential. This is what we have. This is the nature, the basic underlying nature. So the clouds, or the hooks, as she's describing them, are those moments when we close down. So she sometimes describes it as an itch, but it's like we feel something's not right. Something doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel good. Now, we don't even describe it like that because it's described in 1,000 billion different ways, but it always results in the connection with the wisdom mind shutting down. When that happens, then we feel isolated, confused, and separated from the great what's happening. And because of that, confusion, we say to ourselves, I can't contact my wisdom mind. Confusion arises. What is happening? So what's happening is your inner guide is pointing out that you have hit the wall somehow. There's something wrong here. There's some obsession that you have going on. But because this has been going on for a very long time, you have developed habit. Okay, in order to get unhooked, we have to recognize these moments of unease and learn how to relax. Learn how to relax. This is absolutely an essential part of our whole forward motion. Because in order to really rest in the nature of mind, we have to be able to experience its spaciousness. So the tighter we are, the further away we are from our natural sense of being, from our wisdom mind. So learning how to relax and let go of all of the things that seem to be plaguing us is absolutely essential. Now, the other way of doing this, the other absolute essential, and this comes back to Priya's question, is when we feel compelled to do something, if we don't do it because we are afraid of what's going to happen, that is a very self-obsessed point of view. We cannot be personally afraid. We have to look, if our inner guide is saying, do this, the question is this for the benefit of all beings? Is this going to benefit? And if that's a resounding yes within us, however confused it may end up being, at that moment it's clear. And in the moment of clarity, we act. In the moment of clarity, we move forward. So there are different ways here. It says, you really see this operation of the hook when we're having a conversation with someone else. At one moment, that person may be open and the energy is flowing and everything is fine. But then all of a sudden, the eyes cloud over, you see her getting tense, and you recognize this person is being gripped by some kind of hook. And from that point on, conversation is very difficult. You're not going to get any point across. There's nowhere you're going. So the best thing to do is make space inside yourself, and make space for that person to simply be and do whatever it is that they have to do. If you need to have a conversation, try to have it at another time, because it's non-functional. Once they shut down, you have to get creative then. You have to figure out some other way to break through. The Tibetan word, so I'm reading from Prema. The Tibetan word for this is Shenpa. Anything can take you there. At the subtlest level, we feel a tightening, a tensing, a sense of closing down. Then we feel a sense of withdrawing, not wanting to be where we are. That's the hooked quality, that tight feeling. It has the power to hook us into self-denigration, blame, anger, jealousy, and other emotions which lead to words and actions that end up poisoning us. So now this is a question that often comes up. How do I get past this? How do I get past this? So she explains. But first she illustrates a little bit more. It's generally involuntary. In other words, we don't choose to do this. When we get angry or pissed off with someone, we're not choosing to do that. It just arises, and before we know it, we're gripped by it. Okay. We can't stop. This is the issue with something that hooks us. We can't stop because we're in the habit of associating whatever we're doing to try to get some relief from the discomfort. But it gets right down to the root of why we suffer. When someone looks at us in a certain way, or we hear a certain song, we walk into a room, sometimes the feeling has nothing to do with the present. And nevertheless, here it is, in the present. So where did it come from, and how do I deal with it? It thrives on the underlying insecurity of living in a world that's always changing. So we get back to our impermanence business. If we are not going to get familiar with impermanence and comfortable with impermanence, we are going to continue to suffer. We want some kind of relief from this. So we think if we turn to something we enjoy, like food, alcohol, drugs, sex, work, shopping, TV, okay, anybody can relate to some of this? Okay. In moderation, what we enjoy might be delightful, but we can appreciate its taste and its presence in our life. But when we empower it with the idea that it will bring us comfort and it will remove our unease, then we get hooked. So we have to be very careful about that. So we could also call this hook the urge to indulge. The momentum behind the urge is so strong that we can't pull out of it. So it doesn't necessarily have to involve a substance. It can also be saying mean things or approaching everything with a critical mind. Now think about that one. That's a major hook. Something triggers an old pattern. We'd rather not feel it. We tighten up. We hook into criticizing and complaining. Criticizing and complaining are big, big indulgences that are useless. They're useless. It gives us a puffed up sense of satisfaction. That's because it increases our self-obsession. And it gives us some kind of feeling of control, but it's short term, and it remains a sense of uneasiness. So her suggestion the first thing that we have to do is we have to have the willingness to not want to act on these sensations. We have to recognize that they're not wholesome. So that takes some looking at. We have to really be willing to look at our behavior, look at our mind and see. So, because what we're renouncing or refraining from isn't the thing itself, it's the hook. We want to see the hook clearly. We want to really understand how it operates. And we want to feel that tightening so that we can become aware that that's what's driving the show. Excuse me. So that's the first business, to recognize that what we are sensing, what we are feeling, it's not helpful. It's not really orienting us towards wisdom mind. It's not orienting us towards our open-hearted creativity and our capacity to live in the optimum way in this world. In fact, it's causing us to confine ourselves. We're caught in a box, and it's getting smaller and smaller. And it's very, very uncomfortable. It continues to be uncomfortable until we disarm it, until we see the source, the root of its stimuli. So it says, if we can see the hook, just as we're starting to close down, when we feel the tightening, there's the possibility of catching the urge to do the habitual thing and not doing it. With practice, you can do this. So this is what you need to know. With practice, you can learn how to disarm all of these obsessive moments that keep us from being clear and being stable. So first, we try to recognize it. Sitting practice, of course, is something that she recommends, to be able to just sit down. Now, I am not using her word meditation because sometimes people get all freaked out with the idea that what meditation is boring and meditation is useless and I can't meditate. Okay, so don't think about it as meditating. Just sit down. Sit down and look at your mind. Just look at your mind. Now, the first thing that happens is usually, if you haven't done much of this, it's pretty overwhelming. There's all kinds of things going on. That's okay. Just keep breathing. Try to, as much as possible, keep your attention on your breath and to use your breath to let go of every sense of tension. Use your breath to relax, to let go of tension. Always start your sitting practice or any kind of practice with releasing tension, letting go of tension. You want to have the largest capacity of space in your inner awareness, because then you will be able to see what arises there. And you will be able to determine, is this useful? What am I doing with this? And you will also be able to develop the capacity to turn away from a thought that's driving you crazy. You can look at it, you can say what it is, and then you label it thinking, and you go back to resting the mind on your breath and your spaciousness and your relaxation. Keep breathing out tension, breathing out tension. Oh, here comes another thought that distracts the mind. Okay, take a look at it. Don't freak out about it. It doesn't really matter what that thought is. It can be a sense of self-judgment, judgment of others. It doesn't matter. You just look at it and say, this is just a thought, thinking. That's all it is. It does not possess any power over you. And this is what you really need to affirm and understand. So follow the thoughts. We do this, we do not follow the thoughts. We simply keep coming back to the present moment and stay with the sense of uneasiness, the tightening, whatever it is, the resistance, just stay there. It's a sensation, and continually let go of the sensation. Breathe it out, breathe it out. don't get caught up in the desperation. As you continue to do this, you will stop the chain reaction of habitual patterns that otherwise rule your life. We weaken the pattern that keeps us hooked and that we mistake as comfort. So we're labeling it thinking, returning to the present moment. Even in meditation, you have to be aware that there's a hook. Because when we have a successful meditation, then we expect the next day it's going to be the same. And those of you who have done a lot of meditation practice know quite clearly that that is not the case. That one day to the next in practice, even in intense retreat, never looks the same. Never looks the same. So we cannot be attached to any accomplishment. We have to simply be willing to be present with what we are feeling without attaching onto it and defining ourselves according to it. So, what we need to do is address things as they are, not being attached, not being hooked by what we associate with comfort. We need to get to the root of the practice, experiencing the hook, but not reacting. Eventually, clearly seeing our innate intelligence and our wisdom, eventually it kicks in. Now, this is what you can know, is that as you allow yourself to be present in the moment, to release your grasping, your self-obsessed grasping, to notice where this is coming from, that you become clear about it. Your innate intelligence, in her words, wisdom kicks in, and we see the whole chain reaction clearly. As we practice, this becomes stronger, of stronger force than the hook itself, and that has the power to completely stop the chain reaction. Now, we've been doing this for a long time. We have cultivated these chains of these hooks for millennium. So it's not like we can easily disarm it. It isn't that easy, but it's possible. It's a place to go in order for us to really start to get as clear as possible, to get as confirmed in our spacious, loving mind. Whatever arises is fresh, the essence of realization. That's basic view. But what happens when we're all worked up? Well, according to her, the earlier we catch it, the easier it is to work with. But even catching it while we're already worked up is good. Sometimes we have to go through the whole cycle. Even though we see what we're doing, the urge is so strong, the hook is so sharp, the pattern is so sticky. It seems that we can't do anything about it. This reminds me of a relationship that I had where I was constantly getting in arguments with this person. And it would accelerate like that. 1 minute we would be having a conversation, and the next minute it was like lockhorns do battle. And this went on for a while, and then I started thinking, wait a second, it takes two to make an argument. So if I stop, then the argument has to stop, because then there's no one to push against. Well, that was not so easy to do, but because I would be in it before I would even know that this was going on. I would already be, self-righteous, sitting in my seat, my way was the way. And then I remembered something that one of my husbands and I came to, which was, it's much more interesting to be in love than to be right. That for me was always really a good clue. Even though it didn't mean necessarily anything, but it would disengage me for that moment and give me the chance to take a step back and breathe. I would realize my body was like an iron woman, so it would take a while before I could relax my shoulders, relax my belly. I mean, I would start really, while I'm looking at this other person, I'm not thinking about the fight anymore. I'm not thinking about whatever it is that's got us going. I'm simply letting go and relaxing as deeply as I can and opening myself to try to hear what is being asked of me. What is being asked? How can I bring some peace and love to the situation? So even though that didn't necessarily solve the conflict that I was in with this person, but what it did was it provided me with a tremendous sense of relief. Because a lot of you recognize how much suffering comes from our resistance to what's going on around us, rather than our sense of opening and listening and seeing how can I work with this moment in a loving and creative way. So that was that little piece. Then we can train in seeing the hook wherever we are. When you feel that you're tensing, rather than getting caught up in how right you are or how wrong you are, take it as an opportunity to be present with the hooked quality. Stay with it without acting upon it if you can. You can practice when you're sitting still. You can practice in a crowd, watching one person at a time, and look at how we talk to ourselves about badness or goodness, me bad, they bad, this right, that wrong. See how we are constantly judging self and others. And then you're hooked. As soon as you start in on that, you're hooked. So keep labeling the thoughts. Come back to the feeling. And then this little piece really tickled me because it's something that I came up with some years ago. Once we're aware of our own hooks, we begin to notice them in others, and we just watch people shutting down. We see that they've been hooked. Nothing is going to get through to them at that moment. With our basic intelligence, while we see what's happening with others, give the situation some space. Give the situation some space. Maybe ask a gentle question that guides them to try to look at what's really bothering them. But sometimes there's absolutely nothing you could do. So just stop. Just stop pushing. Be quiet. Place your mind on your breath. Hold your mind in place with openness and curiosity. So this is just a little bit of strategy. Then this piece I really liked. Develop strategy with family and friends. This is actually very, very helpful. So when you see yourself getting hooked, or let's see, when you can ask someone, if you see me getting hooked, do a little motion, pull on your earlobe here, pull on your earlobe. Now, if I can, and I recognize it, then I'll recognize I'm being hooked. So you can do this with each other. And the thing that this reminded me of, it reminded me of a situation. It was so helpful. This was one of my marriages, and my husband said something to me, and I just, verbally attacked. And, you really don't want me to verbally attack you. It's really very unpleasant. And so, and that would take care of it. Then we would, be in a raging fight. So sometime afterwards, I looked at the situation because I thought, this was ridiculous. What we were fighting about was nothing. What happened? And I realized that he used a tone of voice that my father used, and that was the cause of me becoming violent as a child, because it was really horrible, but it was just the tone. It was the tone and the attitude behind it. So I told my husband, I said, look, I'm not even fighting with you. I'm fighting with my father. But I'm not able to stop this. As soon as something stimulates this in me, it's all over. I don't even see you. I don't care about you. I'm just defending myself. because I was a child and I needed to defend myself. And so it's so ingrained in me that this is going to happen. So I'm going to just do this. So when I do this, I recommend that you just stop. Just stop completely talking to me at all. And you can even say, I'm not your father. Well, that really helped a lot, actually. That was a tremendous assistance and actually provided the opportunity for us to live a very peaceful life for many, many years. So anyway, let's see, where are we? Almost finished with this text. So because we've been strengthening this habituated situation for a long time, we cannot expect to undo it overnight. It's not a one-shot deal. It takes loving kindness to recognize. It takes practice to refrain. It takes willingness to relax. Okay, so she gives us the process for the 4 R's. The first one is to recognize what the hook is as best we can, or that there's a hook at all, even if we can't tell what its source is. The second one is to refrain from reacting. So don't get embroiled in something. Just keep looking at it. As you're looking at it, relax. Relax and allow the urge to engage. So you see it, you feel it, but you're relaxed inside of it. You're not reacting to it. And then resolve that you're going to continue to interrupt these habitual patterns as much as possible. Resolve that you are going to do your best to interrupt the patterns. And then, now I'm going to add something to that, which is don't panic and freak out because it doesn't happen the first time. So, you have heard me say this before, I say it again. That even though we're engaged in these practices, even though it appears to us that we have put aside some piece of agenda that is causing mental disturbance, do not freak out if it comes back around again a few years later. Now, very often a woman will say, I keep getting into the same kind of abusive relationships, even though I know it's not healthy. I know it's not healthy. So why am I still doing this? And I said, well, because there's still information for you there. You haven't really penetrated to the bottom of the chain. Just keep looking at it. You know, do your best to withdraw from the situation. Do your best to resolve that you're not going to go there again. But don't freak out if it comes up, because, you know, she says, there are a billion kinds of hooks. There are a billion kinds of hooks. But there's only one real hook, and that's self-obsession. So as we become more and more aware of what that means, as we become more and more engaged in activities that bring benefit to everybody around us, and really getting yourself clear, getting your own mind clear, getting your own heart clear, that's number one blessing that we give the world. Number one is to be open to the people around you and to wish them well, and to consistently and always wish everyone well, engaging in whatever activity your inner guide tells you is going to help you to accomplish that condition and that situation. And your own well-being is part of it. Your own bliss and joy is part of it. If you are blissful and joyful, if you can communicate that to others and keep them blissful and joyful, what a wonderful gift that is. What a wonderful gift to the world that can be. So enjoying your own bliss and joy is not an issue at all. Whew, okay, well, yep, how is it that I managed to talk the whole hour? It just went flying by. So, my friends, I hope that this was helpful for you. I appreciate you coming to visit with me, you know, once or twice a month. And I'm also, I'm going to turn you all on gallery view now so I can look at everybody. Yeah, yeah. I am going to start dancing with some of the groups and doing some meditation, some guidance. So please keep aware um, of your emails, because that's where the announcement, and also Joshua is maintaining our Facebook. On the 22nd, which we are going to celebrate the solstice, I will be dancing with one of the groups, Parvati and Carrie's group, yeah, the Phoenix group. So please come and dance. And if you don't want to dance, there's no problem. You can also come and watch. You can just be part of the atmosphere. You can meditate. But it's so good for us to gather together in this way. I'm really, really happy. My Maui ladies, I see a few of you present. And I want to say that we have had no virus now for a day or two. So I will be coming down the mountain most likely for full moon, which is October the 1st. So we can look forward to once again meeting. Yes, this is very exciting. And then I've also been invited to share with the lovely group that Amber has been gathering in Estefania in New York. So I think I'm going to do that next week sometime, next week Saturday, but I'll send everybody the information. So I also want to mention that one of my beloved caretakers, Mr. Joshua, who helps to keep us together here with our Zooming, that he's been working on our new website. And this has been quite the adventure for him and for me, and it will be for you too, because I'm going to ask you, there's a section there for testimonials, and it hasn't been updated in quite a while. So I would love for you to please write what this practice, what this encounter with these teachings and with our dances and with our Sangha, what it means to you. And just send it to me, and or send it to info@taradhatu.org. It will get to me. And I will arrange for it to go on our testimonial page. So if you can, send it with a picture. It would be very nice to have a picture, but that's not necessary. But I'm up to this point in our putting the webs together, so that would be very helpful. I also want to mention that the ladies in Vermont are going to start up their practice, and I'm very, very happy to hear about that. We'll be putting that up on the website and on the Facebook soon. And also congratulations to our beautiful, wonderful group of Taras in Kauai. So happy to see some of you here today. And I'm really so happy to see that you ladies are pulling it off to dance together. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. So we are now I'm going to open it up for questions, if you have any questions. And we're going to try something different. Mei Chen has said that she can spotlight two people to talk. So if you talk, then I can talk directly to you. I don't have to find you. So I'm going to put this on speaker view. And oops, Josh, could you tell me, do you see any hands waving? Any questions?
No hands in the participants panel are raised and nothing in the chat panel. But again, I'm in speaker view for recording.
Oh, okay. So let me go to gallery and see. Okay, any questions? Let me see your hand. Okay, Maya Terra has a question. Excellent. Oh no, Maya Terra is just waving her hand to show the people in Portuguese. Yes.
Well,
do you have a question, Maya? No, you're okay. All right. Yes.
I see hands. Elana Larson.
Okay. Then will you please spotlight her for me? Okay. Ilana, okay. And let's unmute you. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself, Ilana.
Ta-da!
Okay, and Mei Chen, are you spotlighting her? Uh-huh. Okay, I don't see it, but that's all
Yeah.
right.
Are you
Go
on
ahead, Ilana.
Prema speaker
When-
view, you will see her.
I'm on speaker view. Yep. That's okay. I see you up in the corner. Go for it. What's your question, sweetie?
I love you. I haven't seen you in so long. Prema, you're so wonderful. Hi, you other Taras. I am at a friend's house on Zoom because I can't get Zoom at my house. Is there any way to do this that I can see or record it or see it later? Some things I see on my computer and then I can look on YouTube or Facebook later and get it. Is that possible?
Yes, we're very fortunate that our dear Joshua, he will take whatever happens at this event and he will make, he makes a recording. It's being recorded right now. And he'll put it on YouTube, right, Josh? YouTube. Yeah, yeah. We have a YouTube site and there are a lot of Dhatu YouTubes and all of the past Zoom action is there, so you can find it. And we send the notice out several times in the month to, you know, announce when our practice is, and it the link is always on there. So yes, you can, if you find this helpful, you can reference it.
I do, because I thought that I would miss you if I weren't on Zoom. So does it say
Nope.
YouTube on there?
You get, I know that you get my emails. You get the constant contact emails from Tara Dhatu. Just follow the link. He has it on it every time. It says, you know, if you want to listen to previous Zooms, here it is.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, any other questions? Anything else going on?
Yes, Maya has a question, Prema.
Okay.
I don't know how to
So,
say it in English, but she would like that you talk about the stillness like that.
right. Okay. So what I recommend, Maya, is we call it the 9 healing breaths because that was the name that when I originally learned about it, that it's a good designation. But basically, it's the letting go of tension. So, you know, the form of the 9 healing breaths is to inhale vitality and light and exhale tension. So you start by exhaling physical tension and really allow yourself to explore your body. And even though it says 3 times physical tension, 3 times emotional tension, 3 times mental tension, I say do it as much until you really feel that you have released tension. So sometimes physical tension takes a while to release. So at least the first 3 breaths release physical tension. The second 3 breaths release emotional tension. And don't try to think about what your emotional tension is, because I'm sure it probably wants to come roaring forward. Just tell your mind, because there are different levels of mind. And so the command, when you command, it'll go to the deep mind. So command the deep mind, really, you know, let go of emotional tension. And then using the power of your imagination, you imagine that you're breathing out whatever emotional tension you may have. Doesn't matter what it is. This is not the time for it. You're breathing it out. So do at least 3 of those. And then do the same thing with mental tension. Don't try to think what kind of mental tension you have. Give the mind the command, let go of mental tension. If you do this, you start, of course, but we're focusing on our breathing, right? Breathe in radiant light, breathe out physical tension. Breathe in radiant light, breathe out emotional tension. Breathe in radiant light, breathe out mental tension. If you do that, you will find you are in a very calm place. So allow yourself to be there. Then you can use metaphors like warm sea, my breath, inhaling and exhaling, I'm rising and falling in this warm sea of light, infinite space, whatever allows you to relax and just let go and keep letting go. When the mind starts to move, that's where you can pay attention and just take a look. What's agitating the mind? And not make any, and try not to get agitated about anything. You'll start to feel sensations in your body. This is the arising of the hooks. So just look at them. Just feel them. See, where are they coming from? What's the source of this? And if it starts to become, and then continue to let go of tension. So if things start getting tense, go back to let go of physical tension, let go of emotional tension. You can go back and forth for as long or as little as you want. You could do this for 3 minutes. You can do it for 10 minutes. You can do it for an hour. But it will bring you a state of peace inside your body. And it will also give you, here's we go with the good hooks. It will give you a good hook. So this means if you start to feel yourself agitated at any time in the day, step away and do the 9 healing breaths. It'll only take a few minutes. So you're allowing yourself to relax and meet the moment in a relaxed state. So you can be more aware of what's going on. Because when you are not relaxed, you cannot really see, hear, or feel what's actually going on. You're too caught up in your own intense feelings. Is that helpful, Maya? Okay. Any other questions? Anything else anybody wants to talk about?
Amina.
Amina. Okay, beautiful. Unmute yourself, Amina, dear. Let me see if I can help you.
Do
Okay, try
again.
to unmute.
You can do that for her. You did.
Okay.
Okay.
There
Hi.
you go.
Well, I just love this today, what you're sharing with us. It's so practical. This is such a good time for it, you know. Like I get stirred up so often. And I thought you were going to say, after you talked about the 4 R's, something to add, which is a 5th R. So you can say 5 R's. Repeat.
Okay. Well, they're Prema's ours and not mine, but yes, repeat. Well, that's what she says. Resolve that we're going to do our best to disarm these things. One of the words I like to use is strategy, because the mind, it's just like training anything. Teaching a dog or a horse, or or training something. You have to repeat, you have to be present, you have to consider, you have to have strategy. And so that's what I recommend, is developing strategy for dealing with our own minds. Okay, anything else anyone want to ask or say, or any comments? We're all okay? Well, wonderful. Well, it's been lovely spending some time with all of you. So I really pray that that you have some inspiration. I pray that we can all move through this world gracefully, that we can just do our best to be of a loving heart and to rest in our wisdom and to help the people around us. I also pray that the fires will quickly be exhausted throughout America right now. It's so sad what's going on. I really pray that that will quickly be resolved. And I pray that all of the illness that's swarming across the face of this planet right now, that it be resolved. I pray that these political tensions that are disturbing our country, that they be resolved. I pray that we may all live in loving kindness with each other and enjoy the tremendous beauty and creativity that surrounds us. Whatever we've generated through this sincere coming together, may it be for the benefit of all. Om, 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 Om.